Hey everybody, welcome to US Home Talk. We are here live every Wednesday, noon Central Standard Time, talking about current events and real estate mortgages, and fielding all your questions as well during our show. So we appreciate you tuning in wherever you're tuning in at. Maybe you're watching us live. Maybe you're catching our podcast at a later time. But we, again, are here, and we are US Home Talk, and we talk current events in real estate and mortgage. And with me today, we have actually a full crowd here today. With no stranger to the show, with me is Jason Walgrave, Walgrave Real Estate Group, Remax Advantage Plus, Marcus Walgrave, South Dakota Home Team powered by Hegg Realtors. He's with us. He's coming from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And today with us is no stranger to our show, the Yoda of real estate, Mr. Steve, the Yoda Perkins. Coming to us also from Sioux Falls today, but Steve spends half the year, more than half the year actually, down in Arizona. So he is bringing some knowledge and real life experience from a different market than the upper Midwest where me and Jason and Marcus are at. This is an interactive show. So if you want to join us on the show, if you have questions or comments, the best way to do it is go find us on Facebook, and you can watch our show live there. And then in the comment section, you can actually just type in your question or your comment there, and we can talk about that live during the show. If you're looking to connect with us at all during the week, our website is the best way to get a hold of us. ushometalk.com is that website. You can connect with us 24/7 there. All of our preferred partners that we have, you can reach out to them as well. And then we also have tons of reports and buying and selling and all that fun stuff there too. We also have a hotline number. So our show hotline number is 612-234-7585. Again, 612-234-7585. You can call or text that number during the show as well, and we'll answer your questions live on the show. Okay. So, and we touched about this a little bit last week, but we're going to kind of continue the discussion. We're talking about how our real estate market is more going towards like a normal market, right? It's starting, we're on that path, and we're seeing it that we're getting more towards a normal market. So what does that mean? That means that, there's still going to be multiple offers out there, but there might not be 15 offers on a house. There might be 2, 3, 4, 5 offers. You might be able to actually go on a showing or maybe even a second showing on a house before you write an offer, and the house won't slip out from underneath you. Back in the COVID days, we all know it was like if you didn't make an offer within a couple hours of that house hitting the market, you probably weren't going to be getting it. And just prices normalizing too, right? We're actually starting to see some price reductions and things like that. That's normal, right? Back in the COVID time, we didn't see price reductions, right? And that was, of course, not a normal market, and we'll probably never see that type of market again. But we're going to continue the discussion a little bit of how our market is normalizing and just go through some reports that we've seen here throughout the week. So I'm just going to bring up a couple of things, and I'm curious to get your comments, gentlemen, on some of these things. So one of the articles that the Yoda sent us was titled, "Why is it so hard to buy a house?" And the very first sentence says, "Homes are scarce right now." Okay. Now, another article that we're going to talk about and all these came out just this last week. Another article we're going to talk about came out and said the number of homes for sale is at its highest point in the last 6 years. Mm-hmm. So are homes for sale scarce, or do we actually have a good amount of inventory out there?
That's a good point.
Well, I think both those articles are correct. And we've been talking about for 8-9 years about the low inventory that we've had. And so they're both accurate. And you'll go through the stats on how many more listings we have today than over the last few years. But if you look at the last 10 years, we still have a low inventory. But it's higher than it's been in the last 5 or 6 years.
You know, it's kind of like we remember what we just went through, but we don't remember really what it was like 5 years ago or 10 years ago. And I can talk even, decades ago. They're harder to remember, but once we remind ourselves a little bit, we think, and so we kind of think that we're in the same market that we were 2-3 years ago, where, like you were saying, Mike, list the house, and if it was at all reasonably priced, you had multiple offers and you were going to sell it for more than you listed it, right? But those days are kind of gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, a little bit. I mean, I can certainly go through the inventory here, and I think this is a national inventory level. So back in 2017, at this time in 2017, there was 1.25 million homes for sale. 2018, 1.15 million homes. 2019, 1.18. And then 2020, right, as COVID came, we started seeing that dip. 928,000 in 2020, 447,000 in 21, 479,000 in 22. Right. And then we're just kind of climbing, right? 582,000 in 2023, 787,000 in 24. And then currently today in 2025, we're at 1,036,000. Yeah. So 1,036,000. So, but
so we're kind of back
to like normal. Like I consider 2017 and 2018 were pretty normal markets from what I can remember. You know, when I look through my scroll that I have where I kept all my notes from those years. Those are pretty normal markets. You got 1.15 to 1.25 million, listings out there. Mm-hmm. And today we're just over 1 million. So I think we're kind of getting back to normal.
And of course, some markets would be pretty high. I mean, I think we see some markets down in Arizona where, there's getting to be many more homes than what would have been normal, and Minneapolis might be a little bit tighter. So that's where having an experienced real estate agent really can help you.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm looking at the price reduction. So that's another thing that we've seen lately over the last few weeks is the number of homes having price reductions. And it was kind of big news, right? But I'm looking at some of these numbers and I'm kind of like, well, that's still below normal. Like if we go back to 2017 and 2018, if you guys had to take a guess, how many listings out there were experiencing price reductions while they were on the market, percentage wise?
17, 18. Are you talking about nationally?
We can even talk about just our markets we're in. If we talk about Minnesota and South Dakota.
Yeah, I mean,
2018 stands out to me, right? I mean, 2018 was a year where we saw the interest rates go up quarterly throughout the entire year, and so at the beginning of 2018, they're really in my market in the Sioux Falls, South Dakota area, the Sioux Empire, we didn't see price reductions at the beginning of 2018. But by the end of 2018, the mortgage rates were a full point plus higher by the end of it. And so at the end of 2018, the beginning of 2019, we did start seeing the price reductions because the buyers were like, hey, our mortgage rate went up a whole point. We lost 10% in buying power. It's either we're going to have to drop down in a price range, which we're not really interested in because we kind of fell in love with the price range we were in. Or, and that was kind of the buyer behavior, and sellers were like, hey, well, the ones who wanted to sell were like, well, we still want to sell. We kind of need to sell, whatever the case might be. Let's improve our price to attract these buyers, even though that they may be discouraged from 12 months ago. So, 2018 was a unique year in itself and kind of set the stage for the beginning of 2019.
Good. So what would you say back then? How many homes went on the market, and how many of those homes, percentage wise, then experienced a price reduction while they were on the market before they sold?
10%.
What do you think, Marcus?
In that specific year of like 2018?
Yeah. If you just had to take a stab at it.
God, I'd probably say a little bit more, maybe 20, 25%.
Okay. Yoda, you got any guesses?
Yeah,
on that?
I would think I'm kind of agreeing with Marcus. I think it was probably about 20-25%.
And if that's a normal market, do we think normal is somewhere between 20 and 25%? We would see, at any given time, if we have houses listed and 20 to 25% experience a price reduction, like that'd be kind of considered normal.
Yeah, I would say.
It could be. I think it depends on the circumstance. If you're in a market where prices are kind of tending down, you're going to see more price reductions because, and that's, I think, what Marcus was describing with higher interest rates and everything. Affordability was stuff. You guys must have seen that, where people would come in and they were thinking they could afford a $500,000-$600,000 house at 3.5% interest, and now all of a sudden it's 4.5-5% or more, and that affordability is down $100,000, right?
Yeah,
or more.
True story.
So when that happens, then people have to lower their price to kind of do it, and But what is the real number, Mike?
So today in 2025, so this is what they're saying. So North Dakota, South Dakota, and Minnesota, right, that upper Midwest,
Yep.
they're all at the exact same amount. 14% of
14%.
listings are experiencing price reductions. Wisconsin's at 12%. Illinois is at 11%. Iowa's at 16%. Nebraska's at 11%. So, we're basically between 11 and 16% for that upper Midwest. So based on kind of our discussion here, that would still be kind of under what a normal market would be as far as seeing price reductions. Now we get into different markets, right? We get into the southeast corner, North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, Georgia, right? They're all between 21 and 24% of listings are experiencing price reductions in 2025. Now, oddly enough, or not oddly enough, but Arizona, right? Yep. The market that the Yoda lives in for at least half of the year, they're at the top right now for price reductions. They're at 29% of the listings for 2025. So, but still, that's not far off from what we kind of deem to be normal. It's just, I think the reason why it's so big now is because it's been a long time since we've actually seen price reductions, and now we're moving back to that normal, and people are, it's kind of a big deal. It's like, they haven't been this level for 5 years. Well, yeah, but
it's only 14% right now. I would have guessed it's higher. I feel like, maybe I'm just noticing it more because it's more than what it was last year, the year before, but I would have guessed it's 30% right now.
Well, and I think one thing to maybe, and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but to kind of differentiate the two, we're talking price reduction. So you're online, you're seeing a house that's listed for 500. Next week it's listed for 490. There's that piece, but then there's also the piece to where once the seller receives, an acceptable offer, the terms to that offer are typically being sold. That purchase price is being sold for less than list price. Right. So then there's an additional percent that goes on to it. This is just specifically detailing list price, and now still list price. It's still for sale. It's still active. Not necessarily the additional percentages that are being negotiated once a contract is accepted.
Sure.
Yes.
Well, and I think too, we're coming off of a period of time when we were used to a higher inflation in homes. And so what happens, I think, particularly when one talks to a more inexperienced salesperson is they tend to say, oh, of course we can get you $600,000 for your house. Even when the comparables are showing that it's really 500 would be a pretty good sale. And of course that makes that seller, everybody likes more money, but the only problem with real estate agents, it's like appraisers. One guy told me many years ago, he was pretty smart, and he said, the only problem with those people is they never buy a house. They never buy their property. They just tell you what it's worth, but a good agent, I think, can come in and give you those, if you're a seller out there and you're thinking of selling, show you what's the competition on the market. And you have to kind of pick yourself up out of your house and go look and say, oh, if I was looking today for a house like mine, here's what I would see. And what are those prices? And then they will be telling you, a good agent, of comparable houses that have sold. And you get that market analysis, and boy, that's great, and no matter, those agents that want to tell you it's worth a whole bunch, well, just ask them, make them tell you what similar properties have sold for that.
Yeah. Jason, you've always been bringing up the stats here recently in the last couple of years about, last year, right? What was it? Set over 70% of all the licensed real estate professionals in the U.S. never sold more than one home.
74%.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, 74%. So, to Yoda's point, if they're still licensed, they're still out there interacting with consumers, buyers and sellers. And if they're only doing one deal a year, they probably don't really have a true finger on the pulse and really know what the value of homes are. So, and then there's less than 2% sell more than one home per month.
Correct.
So when you're, and if you're doing more than one home per month, you're in the 1 percentile of real estate professionals in the U.S. So it's like you definitely want to make sure you align yourself with one of those individuals.
Absolutely.
Well, and Marcus, that's a great point. I mean, because you think about it, if you're going to have heart surgery or brain surgery, do you want to just go to the surgeon that, well, I did one of these last year, but I I think I'm pretty good at it, and I'm your friend, and and plus I'll do it for less money. Yep. I mean, no, you don't want that. And your house is your biggest investment, most people will ever own. And so, you might say 1% on a listing fee or something, but that might be the most expensive 1% that you ever, quote, saved in your life.
Yeah, you're right, Steve. I think some sellers get so hung up on commissions and the cost to sell. They're not looking at what really matters, and that's the net bottom line, and so, if you've got someone that has a tremendous amount of experience and a proven track record and knows how to sell homes for the highest amount in the quickest time with a strategic plan, that agent is going to net you more money than someone that just, hey, I'll do it for a discount and put it on the MLS and put a sign in the yard and hope it sells. I mean, you look at statistically, you're going to make more money. And so, and I think, I think in our market, frankly, there's very few for sale by owners anymore. I mean, it just, I think back, when I got started in this business 25 years ago, and there was a lot more FSBOs, as we call them, but in the last, 10 years, and especially in the last 5, I mean, I don't even remember the last time I've seen a for sale by owner sign in front of the house. Right. I mean, it just, because people, I think they realize it, and consumers, which is, I think, a great thing. They have access to more data than ever before, and they can look and see what the neighborhood homes have sold for, and they can, there's this access to data that I think really empowers the consumer, and for expert real estate agent helps us because it's, we can have a intelligent, reasonable conversation about what your home's value is. And then, we're partnering with you. If you're a seller, it's a partnership. All right, let's work together. We got the same goal to make you the most money and sell the house for the highest amount. And so, I think it's definitely a better place to be for us, and, especially folks, guys and gals that have been doing it a long time.
And then when those offers start coming in, or one or two, maybe you get 2 or 3, but more likely than not, it might be. I mean, how do you really analyze that? And are they qualified? And yes, they might have a letter, but I mean, maybe their lender was one of these lenders that, they did one home loan a month or something, and so they say they're qualified, but are they really qualified? And because those deals that fall through, boy, they cost you a lot of money.
Oh, they could cost you the house you want to buy.
Right.
And I mean, it's those are tough deals when they fall apart because the agent and or the loan officer didn't do the best job. Yeah.
I mean, so unless you really got some experience in buying and selling stuff, maybe been an agent, I think having a good expert, whether you're buying or selling, a good expert on your side is just like, if you're going to go into court, you want, one of the best lawyers that's handled the case to represent you, particularly if it happens to be, if you're going to be life in prison or something. I mean, you want to make, and this is, like I say, one of the biggest life decisions that most people will ever make is buying and selling a home. And probably on the average, maybe people do that 4, maybe 5 times in their entire life.
That's a great point. Do you want the public defender, or do you want the guy from Suits?
Yeah.
I want the guy from Suits. That's who I want.
Well, and the public defender might not be too bad, but I mean, you get what you pay for.
Never know what you're going to get there.
Right. Yeah.
Might be the first case.
Luck of the draw. Yeah. Right.
So there was another article that came out, it was the American Home Buyer Report, and it was basically a survey of, home buyers through 2025 here. And there's just some stats, right? So they just, there's a whole list of questions here. And so they came up with some stats. So I'm curious to get some of your comments on this. They said 62% of recent buyers prioritized finding an affordable home in 2025, which is a significant jump from 48% who said the same thing in 2024.
Mm-hmm.
So buying a more affordable home more important this year than last year, according to the survey.
I think that makes sense. I mean, I think just the cost of everything feels, we're feeling it, right? From your, used to be $5 footlongs to $15 footlongs. So I mean, I get
Exactly.
that makes sense. The one stat in there I found fascinating, and then the more I thought about it, I think I know the reason why was the one about 62% of first-time home buyers didn't really care about the foundation, or what exactly does that say?
Yeah, that one was
A strong foundation.
Yeah, that was
I think it was a strong foundation that they didn't prioritize a strong foundation.
Yeah.
And,
I'm trying to find it here, but yeah, I saw that too. That was kind of interesting. It was like, yeah, the foundation wasn't that big of a deal, but then like plumbing and electrical came up on that same one too, which was kind of interesting.
and that was more important. Yeah. Well, do you see now? I mean, back in the early days when I started, this idea of home inspections was, it was unheard of. There was nobody out there doing it, and you just had to kind of, as a buyer, look property over well, and maybe, rely on somebody, that a friend or relative or something that knew it, or frankly, agents had to be more of an expert, and there were more, I think, malpractice claims and stuff, because agents were supposed to be the kind of inspector. But now, do a lot of people just rely on that? And if the roof's bad or something's bad, that the inspector is going to tell me that?
I mean, they do rely on the inspector to give them that information, and we always recommend having a home inspection.
Yeah.
Sometimes buyers choose not to if they're in multiple offers and they feel it's going to be, a reason why they don't get their offer accepted. But, an inspection is going to cost you, I don't know, somewhere between $400 and $600, depending on, all the different things and how big the house is. But I mean, geez, you're spending $400, $500, $600,000+. Why would you spend another $500 on an inspection and have a certified home inspector go through the house? And, we always say to our buyers, look, you're doing a home inspection for two reasons. One, to make sure that there's nothing major wrong with the house. Make sure structurally, foundation, roof, there's nothing major wrong with the house. And then two, to get a list of all the little things that need to be addressed when you move in. Because it's not, if it's not a brand new home, there's going to be a nice size list of, maybe a window needs to be caulked, or maybe there's a step that needs to be, raised, or so it is, I think it's really important. I think sometimes in new construction, it might not be necessary, but with that said, we just sold a new construction home a few months ago, and the buyers were like, yeah, we really want to do a home inspection. And the builder was accommodating and said, yeah, that's no problem. Well, that inspection report came back with seven or eight items that needed to be addressed. And the beautiful part of it is it's a brand new home, and it was a national builder. We just gave them the report. They went and fixed everything, because the builders want to deliver satisfaction on a new home. And so it was interesting, because it's been I don't remember the last time I've had a buyer do an inspection on a new construction home, but it definitely has my opinion on it changed. It's like, yeah, have it, because the builder's more than happy to go. And it was, it was some minor things, but it would have cost the buyers, probably $1,000 and some time to do it after the fact. Or the builder would have came back, but now it's all done before closing. Now they get to move in. The house is completely finished, all issues remedied, and so it was kind of interesting perspective.
The property inspectors are getting really advanced as well. The technology that they have, I mean, they have heat sensors to where if they can kind of check the backside of a plumbing wall, there might be like a water stain, they can put their heat gun on there and see if it's a different temperature without being intrusive and like going into a wall. I mean, they got a lot of the inspectors, they're getting have tools to do plumbing inspections. They can start checking out certain lines. And so again, to Jason's point, $500-$700 to get it done, whether it's a new construction or not. definitely seems like it's worth it. And like I always told people during like in previous years when it was maybe a difficult thing to have it be part of the offer, I always tell people, just because you're thinking about passing on this contingency offer on a property inspection doesn't mean that you should just say, okay, I'm not going to do it at all. Like after you move in, you should still be considering to have it done. Or homeowners out there, it's not just for buyers and sellers. If you're a homeowner and you don't really feel like you're comfortable crawling all over your roof, which I'm not, I'm not going to get on top of my roof, but I know who somebody will, and a property inspector will get there for me. So, or in the attic, I'm not going in there either. So, I mean, it's really for anybody who owns homes or owns real estate or looking to buy or sell too. So,
yeah, no, I would say, having started in that environment where they didn't exist and selling other people's property, even myself, I used to think, oh, this home inspection when it first came out was kind of a joke, I mean, I can go look through all this and whatever, and and I had developed some skills over that, and in wiring, plumbing, and roofs and what have you, and you look it over well, but boy, then when I started getting some of these reports, and that a water heater or something is out of, is on a recall basis or what, I mean, how would I know that, and
Right.
and again, for the little bit of money, if they wanted 5,000 or something, that would be a little different, now home warranties might be a little different type of thing. I mean, sometimes they're a concession and they help people, but yeah, no, I like these home inspections. I mean, I think they're, and again, I'm sure there's good inspectors and there are bad inspectors, and you want one that's experienced and has a good following. Correct?
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, even if you just want to learn about your home, like all the mechanical systems in the home, new homes have air exchangers, and you got, you got whole home humidifier systems, and you got this and that. I mean, there's more filters in your utility room right now than you think there are, right? Everything's got a filter that needs to be, cleaned or, replaced every once in a while, whatever. And I guarantee there's people out there that probably have an air exchanger in their house, and they've had it for 7, 8, 9 years and probably have never taken the filter out once.
Kind of like picking up the hood on my 61 Ford Falcon and looking at it, and then opening up the hood on my 25 Lincoln Aviator, and boy, is that an engine in there now? I mean, I can't even find the dipstick, let alone the spark plugs in the new one. So and the homes are the same way as what you're saying.
Yes, yes.
Right. Yeah. And so a lot of people will do it. The inspectors usually will say, join me the last half hour, 45 minutes or something, and I'll just show you. I'll just show you how these systems work, right? Here's what you got to look out for. Here's the filters you got to replace, because a lot of people don't know, and they just let it ride. And then next thing you know, you got a water heater that bursts all over your utility floor. You know what I mean? Because it rusts out because you don't, flush it or whatever. So I did find some of these stats over here, though. So 61% of the buyers said it was not important for a home to have a strong foundation, and 63% said the same thing about the roof. It was not important for it to have a good roof.
So I think the reason for that, Mike, is because they're not intending on staying there for more than a few years. I mean that's got to be the reason, right? I mean, if you're like, I'm only going to be here 3 to 5 years, then do you really care that much? I mean, that's my guess. Because when I originally read it, I thought, what? That makes no sense at all.
Right.
Right.
I mean, go try to get insurance with a shabby roof right now.
Yes.
I mean, or a roof that's over 15 years old.
There could, maybe there's some misunderstanding on that question too. I mean, it's like, the roof, I don't know whether it's good or bad, but my inspector will tell me whether it's okay or something. I mean, I just can't quite believe I'm with you guys that you got that many people, almost 2 out of 3, that's saying a foundation or roof doesn't. I mean,
right. That's wild.
So there's probably more that meets the eye that the details in the survey might be there, but.
Yep. Another thing too, 64% of buyers plan to purchase a home that costs less than $400,000. With most of them targeting a 310 price point, but the current median sale price in the country, do you guys want to guess? Did you guys see what that number is?
450-ish.
Yeah.
417 is the current median. So you got 64% of the home buyers out there looking underneath the median home price, right?
Yeah.
So you get into that 300 to 350 price point. I mean, there's a lot of buyer competition.
I think the income required was that one was a I've seen that in the last few months, but income required to buy a home just 2 years ago compared to today. I mean, that's a big change.
Big change.
Big change.
But I would look over the years, and I know rates seem high, but I can tell you, I'm 74, and in most of those years, I mean, 6.5% would have been or 7% even would have been a pretty good rate. I mean, most of my active real estate selling times were 7 to 9, and I went through the early '80s when it was 16.5 and 17%. So, this idea that we're going to get back to 2.5, 3%. I don't think that's going to happen for a long time.
Not in our careers, not in our career lifetime, and probably not in our lifetime period. I'm guessing.
And if it does, Mike, I mean, then none of these mortgages today, they don't have I mean, you can't pay them a clause that you can't pay them off and refinance, right? I mean, you can always do that.
Yep.
Yeah, there's no prepayment penalties
right.
on most loans, unless you're getting outside of like the outside box. If you're doing what's called non-QM, right? That's the new term for basically what subprime used to be back in the day.
Okay.
Some non-QM products do have prepayment penalties, but then it's state specific. Minnesota doesn't allow them.
Yep.
Doesn't allow prepayment penalties. So then in Minnesota, no matter what type of loan you get in Minnesota, it's not going to have a prepayment penalty.
So if you find a good house that's affordable, that's whatever, and you're worried, well, I'm going to wait for interest rates to come down. Well, when they do, there's going to be more of a demand. So maybe you buy it, and if interest rates when and if they do come down, which they probably will, then you refinance.
Yep, exactly. Well, one interesting one I saw: 82% of home buyers made compromises when purchasing their home in 2025. Guess what the number one compromise was?
Garage.
Price,
paying more than what they wanted to. Yep.
Yeah.
That was the number one compromise they made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, all of this is and people get ideas as to, what they really want to do. But, when in life do you ever find, the perfect job or, for that matter, the perfect mate? I mean, we all have faults. And so, if you're waiting for the perfect thing to come along that will meet all of your needs and everything, that might come maybe after you die. And we call that heaven, I guess. But
you know what, Steve, that's a really great point. I mean, I think the question really should be, what don't we compromise on? And I mean, that's what life is.
Right.
Life is all about compromise and whatever you're doing. And so, 82% and the price, that makes sense. I mean, it's, things cost more and they don't want to spend that much, but they want what they want. And so makes sense.
You kind of had to do what you needed to do to get the house, right? The alternative was don't pay that. And now you're back competing against the next one.
Yep.
What happens on the next one? Maybe you got to offer more on the next one.
Right. Yep. And I sensed in there too, there was some other data that then was talking about, kind of buyer remorse, and that was higher than what I thought it would be. But then after I got thinking about it, I thought, I don't think there's not too many things that were of major expense that I've purchased in my life that I didn't at some point after buying it. I thought, ooh, maybe I could have gotten that a little cheaper, or maybe the terms could have been a little bit better. I don't care whether it's a motorcycle or a car or a house or a new computer even or something, maybe I should have looked a little bit more, and, but so that's common. I think that's common. And but if it's well-grounded and you've had a good agent that's working for you, the process, and you got a good lender, I mean, it should sail through, and you're going to be able to buy it and it should work,
Yeah, and the last stat too that we'll hit here before we take off, just we touched about this before. So when choosing a real estate agent, 46% valued communication and availability, while only 24% prioritized the agent's commission rate.
Oh yeah, I mean that makes sense to me, and it just, we don't have a whole lot of discussion on commissions. I mean, we present our value, and which I think is very high. We present what we do and how we sell and market and advertise homes, and so, and the communication thing is, I mean, that's spot on. And I mean, honestly, I've experienced that my entire career. I mean, it's like people, they want you to be available and they want you to return calls and emails and text messages, quickly. And, I think sometimes it gets to an extreme where, especially in today's world with, AI and chat GPT and, it's like people want immediate, instant responses from humans, and I think, obviously that's not realistic, but it's important. I mean, and if you look, I've read seller stats that, sellers that were unhappy with their listing agents, what's the number one reason? It's communication.
Right.
They didn't communicate with me. They didn't, they listed my house and I didn't hear from them for
Never
30
saw 'em.
days. Yeah. Never.
Right.
And so it's so important to be,
And even on the buying side, following up, is so important. In fact, I remember, Mike, when you first got into this business, I'm doing it. That was quite a while back. But I remember saying, just don't forget, the only thing you really have to sell is service and professionalism. And so know all there is to know about your product. I mean, in my life, I've dealt more with some insurance agent. I knew more about the policy than they did, and of course, real estate maybe isn't fair because I knew some stuff about that. But I mean, we've all had people about, and so, and that's there again, get somebody that's good, that's experienced, that knows the product and is going to communicate with you, and then you'll be happy. I think some of these regrets might be because people were, they just never heard from the agent. The next time they heard from him was at closing when he was going to pick up his check,
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the stats was 36% of first-time home buyers said the home buying process was more difficult than they expected, which, again, if you're working with the right agent, right, that number would probably be much, much less. That's and we spoke about that a little bit too, is, how many agents, sell 10 houses a year or more, right? Percentage of agents, which is what, 2%?
Less than 2%. Yep.
Less than 2% of the agents out there will sell 10 houses in a year or more, right? Obviously those agents, right? Those agents up there are masters of communication, right? And I think if you survey just the clients of those particular agents out there selling 10 homes a year or more,
for sure.
I bet that number would be significantly less as far as them saying that it was harder to buy a house than what they expected.
Right. And you see that when I think one thing to ask an agent is, well, how many people that Jason, that you sold to, when it comes time for them to sell, how many call you up to relist their house then?
Yeah.
And when you get a lot of people, because I bet you have, 80-90%, that tells you must have done a pretty good job,
That's a great question. That's a great, I mean, the majority of the business that I do now it's referrals and, and past clients and customers and Sphere and you wouldn't get that repeat business if you didn't do a great job. So,
right. And that's these discount brokers. I mean, they're just kind of, well, number one, they probably won't even be in business when it turns around, even if you're going to resell in 2 or 3 years. I mean, they're probably in and out now. They're selling used cars or something,
Yeah. Working at Target.
Right. Yeah. The greeter at Walmart. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Well, they found something that met their skills. Right. I mean, not that those people are pretty important too, because they make people feel welcome,
Yes.
but, so, well, good.
Well, great show today, guys.
show.
Yep, covered a lot of information. We appreciate everyone tuning in and listening to us here today. We'll be back next Wednesday, noon Central Standard Time, with another show. On behalf of Jason Walgrave and Steve, the Yoda Perkins, and myself, Mike Ouverson, we will see you next week.